Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Andreas and I'm the author of the London Poker Guide. Today I'm going to review a few hands that I played at 2-5 at the Hippodrome Casino in London. And without further ado, let's get started. We open Queen 10 suited from under the gun, get one caller in the cutoff, everyone else folds, and then we get this flop. So this is a very exciting flop for our hand. Unfortunately not so great for our whole range. Two big cards on a monotone flop is actually pretty bad for the pre-flop raiser, so there's a lot of checking here, especially out of position, so I decided to check even this super strong hand here. Unfortunately, we get a check back from the cutoff. Then on the turn, we're starting to put some money into the pot. I didn't want to overbet this here because it's actually quite unlikely that he has a good hand after his check back on the flop, but at least he called here. And then on the river, I thought now we can go a bit bigger. It's still quite unlikely that he has something, but in case he just river two pair or something like that, I wanted to make it quite big. I overbet, but unfortunately he gets out of the way very quickly. Then we have this next hand here. We're on the button with ace queen off. We have a limper in the low jack. We make it 20. The big blind calls, who is a recreational player, and also the limper calls. So three-way to a flop of ace 6 5 with the flush draw. Checks to me, and I don't really know why I checked behind here. Looking at it now, I think we have pretty much a mandatory c-bet here. I thought I was getting a bit tricky, and I think in GTO you do check this hand a tiny bit because it just mixes. But I think it was actually a bad check because we can get calls from weaker aces, from a six, from pocket pairs like sevens, eights, nines, flush draws. Also, we have the queen of hearts. In case the flush comes in on the turn, it wouldn't be the end of the world. We could definitely call if we get raised, so yeah, I should really have just bet this one, but I checked. Then the board pairs, and the recreational player in the big blind bets half pot. Of course, after we didn't see bet the flop, there is no way we get out of the way here. He could be doing this with a lot of hands, so definitely a call. Now the flush gets in on the river, and this is actually quite interesting. He now bets 40 into 122, so just the third pot. Looks very much like he does not have the flush. Um, I thought like, well, basically all three options are open now: fold, call, and raise. Although I think fold is really not a genuine option against a third pot bet here when the flush comes in. So I was thinking whether my hand is good enough to call, or if we should raise here with a queen of hearts, because as I said, I'm pretty positive that the big blind does not have a flush. But because I have such a good kicker with my ace, I thought he could be doing this with ace jack, ace 10, ace 9 maybe. Sorry, no, ace 9 we would lose against that, but ace jack and ace 10, maybe even ace 8. So I still thought I was quite high up in my range, and against the third pot bet I decided to flick in the call, and he had the 6 here. So probably even if I c bet the flop, I would just lose a bigger pot, I would expect, because he would still not have folded here after flopping middle pair. So yeah, a bit unlucky run out here, but yeah, overall I just think the c bet on the flop would have been better, and on the river you could definitely consider raising, but I think it's actually not bad to just call here. Now we get to a very interesting hand. We raise under the gun +1. We get a call in the hijack. We get a call on the button, and we get a call in the small blind, as is quite typical for low limit live games. And then we have a good aggressive reg in the big blind, who makes it 110. Now think about the options and what you would do here. I think no one should fold here against an aggressive reg who squeezes from the big blind against 3 callers here with lots of dead money in the pot. Now the question is, should we call? Should we raise to something like 230? Or should we go all in? And I think all in is the best. That's what I thought in game, especially because we're not super deep, only just over 100 big blinds, 110 and 20 big blinds. So I decided to go all in, and everyone folded. And then I just like to do this kind of work. I looked at the fold equity calculator from Red Chip Poker, which is a great tool to use in these sort of situations. So I plugged in all the numbers, and basically I assumed that I would have um, equity of 39%, which I arrived by using this tool here. So I put in ace king, my cards, and I assume that this is the range that he would call with jacks plus and ace king. I mean, there's a tiny chance that he would fold jacks or ace king, but I don't think this kind of player against me would fold that. He might even call tens. But if we just assume it's this range, then we have about 39 to 40% equity. If he also calls with tens, then we have 40%, so it doesn't really change anything. If he doesn't call some of the ace kings, then actually our equity goes up. Now it goes down a little bit, but not by much. But if he folds some of these hands, then our fold equity goes up. If we manage to get him to fold any ace king or jack or tens, that's an amazing result here. So, but back to this one. So I said we have 39% equity, and so we need him to fold at least 37% of the time to break even. So let's say around 40% to make this profitable. And I think he folds way over 50% in that spot, because he will probably seize the opportunity to just get all that dead money by raising very wide. So quite happy with this one. Okay, off to the next one. Here we have a raise from the hijack, and I'm on the button with ace-jack suited. Now, this would normally in a tough game be mostly a raise. However, the small blind and that game was a bit of a weaker player. I was just thinking maybe I can get him in with this hand. Also, I have position, and it's not a mistake to call ace-jack suited here, but normally you would raise it. Unfortunately, the small blind folds, but then the big blind, who is a competent reg, squeezes here. The hijack gets out of the way, and with a hand that I should have 3-bet myself, I have to definitely call here now in position. Ace-jack suited, even though he's made it quite big, which he should do. But so we go heads up to the flop, and then we get this amazing flop, so I can't complain with good flops so far. He surprisingly checks here. I didn't really know what to make of this check, but I thought I would let him stab in the next one, or maybe he's just slow playing an overpair here, but then he would definitely come out betting on the turn. So I just checked behind here, slow playing my top trips. We get a brick on the turn. Now he bets about 2/3, which is the bet that I actually expected on the flop already. And now I just wanted to get some money into the pot. I could, of course, slow play here, but if he has picked up a flush draw now, or if he has been slow playing an overpair, then I thought if I raise here, I would get some money in, but unfortunately he had nothing. He just folded and I took down the pot. Next one. Now we have King Queen suited on the button, and this is another interesting one. So now the hijack, who is a good, very aggressive player who likes to put people in very tough spots, and this is the reason why I didn't want to raise this time. So I'm aware that I seem quite passive by calling all these fairly big hands on the button, but in this case, I really wanted to keep his bluffs in for later streets as well, in case I hit something. So, because if I think if I 3-bet, there's a good chance that he 4-bets here, and I didn't really want to play a massive pot with such a hand, even if it's in position. So I prefer to call here. The big blind also calls, and now we're getting a really nice flop here. We have top pair, good kicker, and a flush draw. The hijack predictably bets. He goes around half pot. There is nothing else for me to do here than call. I mean, why would I raise? What better hand would fold? And I guess some weaker hands could call, but I think my hand is way too strong and has a draw to the nuts here, so I will just call. The big blinds get out of the way. Now we get the 10 of hearts. I mean, yeah, Jack 9 gets there, but whatever, especially with the monster draw that I still have here, or the draw to the monster, I should say. There is nothing else for me to do than to call even to his 75% pot bet here. So I think that's another easy call. But what makes it less easy is this river, because it's a complete blank and he fires 175 into 247. And now we have a big decision here. So you could, on the one hand, say it's trivial to call because if you know that he's a very aggressive player, and I knew that he would be triple barreling here with air, really. However, if you look at our blockers, I mean, yes, the only good thing is that we block the queen, but we block his bluffs heavily. That is, if he bluffs only with clubs. So normally, I think this is actually a fold here, as big a fold as it looks with having top pair, but against most players, I couldn't really see how we could be good here. However, this particular player, as I said, is very aggressive. He loves to put pressure on people, and I think he would do this with way more than just club draws. So after deliberating for like 30 seconds or maybe even a bit longer, I flicked in the call, and he turned over pocket sixes, which I think is actually a good triple barrel here, because if I had had King Jack of clubs here, for example, or even King 10 of clubs, I would potentially or probably have found a fold here. But with the top pair, I definitely had to call here. But I still think it was actually a good triple barrel of his. So he did nothing wrong there, but we got lucky in this one. Now, the next one, there was actually a poster in the hijack. It says here that he limped, but he had just posted. The cutoff raises, and I decide to call here in the big blind again, fairly passive. There is like a 20-25% chance that I would raise this, and actually looking back now, I should probably have raised it because there was a little bit of dead money in the pot from the poster, who then folds, but anyway, I decide to call in this case. Here actually I could develop some leads. I would probably do that against an earlier position. However, what I tend to find is, although GTO likes to lead these flops, especially in live games, a lot of the players actually think that I'm a recreational player who just tries to find out where he is if I lead these boards, so I don't really like leading that much. That said, I still do it sometimes, but here I decided I wouldn't. We get the half pot bet again. We call here. I mean, a raise, yes, is possible, but I don't see really what a raise would do here, because our top pair is good, but the kicker is not like anything amazing. So I just decided to just call here. The turn we check, he checks behind this time, and now we get another 8 on the river. So basically we have the nuts now. If he had any hand that beats us, he would most likely have bet the turn. So when here I just decide to overbet it, because the flush bricked, and yes, whilst he probably doesn't have anything, but in case he has something that he slow played, like an overpair, or he might have something like pocket sixes, pocket fives that just don't believe me, and in that case might look me up, but unfortunately he has nothing and he just folds. Let's get to this hand with pocket jacks. We open on the button, get 3-bet by a tight recreational player in the small blind. Normally I would 4-bet this against a good reg, but against a tight recreational player I think it's best to just call here, even or especially because the raise is not even 4x, so we just call. Then unfortunately we get an ace high flop. He bet small. If he bet bigger here, I would probably already get out of the way. But here, I just have to call once because I think he's so tight that if he did this with something that didn't connect with his board, he will probably give up. But it's already quite close. So I called. Then the 8 pairs here. He now doesn't bet huge, but it still looks to me like it's an ace. I just can't see him bet kings or queens or 10-9 suited or queen jack suited, plus we even block that one, but things like that I just didn't think that he would bet here. I mean, the worst hand I could imagine him doing this with would be something like king queen of spades, but yeah, I don't want to pay here again, and then he might bluff the river or have something like there. So no, I decided it's just not good. So I let the hand go. And now we're coming to the last hand of this hand history review. So I open 5-6 suited in the hijack. We get 3-bet by the button. We call here, so even though he makes it over 3x, but 5-6 suited is a very good hand to call even out of position, because it gives us connectivity on the part of the board where you wouldn't necessarily expect us to be very strong. Like this one here, although we only have bottom pair, but he bet small, which I think is a bit of a mistake. He should bet big on this board here as the pre-flop aggressor on the button, but against the small bet with bottom pair and backdoor flush draw, we just have to call. So that's what we do. Now we get the over card here, but we also get a flush draw, and we naturally check, and now he bets a bit bigger. If the king had been in any other suit, I would fold now, but with this draw now, we have to call, although I think at this point I'm most likely behind. There is a chance that he just bet something like Jack 10 on the turn, on the flop, sorry, and now he just uses the scare card to bet big, but most likely we are behind at this point against his range, even the double barreling range. So we call, and now we surprisingly get the 6 on the river. So we have trips, and I was thinking whether to donk here now, to pretend that I have the missed flush draw, which I have, funnily enough, because I would probably get called by ace king or so. But in the end, I just decided to not do this because I thought against a small bet I could check raise. But we face just over a half pot here. And now this is an interesting one. What would you do in this pot here? I assume you wouldn't fold, but would you shove or would you just call? And I was torn, but the issue that I saw here was like he triple barreled this, and yes, he might do this with ace king. But also one piece of information, just like 5 minutes before this hand, this player folded a check raise on the river, saying that no one would ever bluff in such a spot, and that's why I thought he might actually fold a hand like ace king or even king queen here if I check raise here, check shove. So that's why in the end I said he has pocket kings, he has pocket queens, and if he folds ace king, aces, and possibly even king queen, then I would only get called by better, and so I decided to just call, and he had the king queen offsuit. So on his part I think he did well, except as I said I would have bet the flop bigger. But other than that, yeah, he just got very unlucky with the run out here, and we got very lucky. So overall, it was a very profitable session. I left out a few more boring hands where we ran good, but yeah, I finished the session with almost £1,300 up. So that was really nice and positive. But for those of you who like to see me lose and make bad decisions in part, the next one coming up at 1-3 at the Vic will be one of those sessions where everything went against me. But here I just enjoyed this one, and I hope you enjoyed this hand history review as well. Please, as always, like and subscribe the channel, and see you next time. Bye!